Hi, Gina.
Hello.
How are you doing?
Welcome to a I'm good. Welcome everybody, all of our viewers to a very special hashtag Trek It To. This, as promised, is going to be Scouter focused. We're going to touch a little bit more on Scouting Magazine than we have in the past. So you'll definitely recognize Aaron, who is an instrumental part of Scouting Magazine. But we've also got a new face on screen today. Aaron, do you want to give the esteemed intro?
Absolutely, I would love to. We've had some really interesting, cool people on Trek It 2 over the last few weeks. We've had scientists, we've had like astronauts, we've had all kinds of cool people, and we have one of the coolest today, and that is a scout volunteer. The people that literally, right, our organization would not exist without them. Nancy Bentley, thank you for joining us. How are you today?
Doing good. How are you?
I'm doing great, thank you. So Nancy is coming to us from Reston, Virginia. She is an assistant scoutmaster with Troop 1577, and she has been a scouting volunteer for a couple of decades, Gina. So we owe her a lot. Let me just say thank you right now for your service, Nancy. We really appreciate it.
Well, thank you.
So, among Nancy's many duties, she's the assistant scoutmaster at Troop 1577. She's the health and safety chair. She's the health and safety advisor for the Powhatan district, I think, if I'm saying that right. She's also involved with Order the Arrow, which is a lot of what we're going to talk about today. Nancy, to start us off first, okay, by the way, Nancy is featured in this latest issue of Scouting Magazine, which you can read, everybody can read through the Scouting Magazine app. So it's important. We've been talking on Trek It 2 a long time about the Boys Life app and how you can download it for free and read all these stories for free. Well, we're going to add a second app to that must-read list, the Scouting Magazine app. It is also free, and you can read all of its stories for free as well, including an interview with this lovely lady right here with us. Nancy is featured in there in a section that we call What I've Learned, in which we interview longtime Scout volunteers and things like that. It's a really interesting interview, especially if there's any Scout parents out there, any Scout volunteers who are interested, you want advice, you want to know what it's like. Nancy has all the answers, and we're going to get them out of her today here over the next 15 or 20 minutes or so. Nancy, to start off, why don't you just tell us a little bit about your background? How did you get involved with scouting?
I ended up getting involved when my first son was in Cub Scouts and followed him through from Tigers all the way up as a den leader. And by the time he got ready to go into Boy Scouts, it seemed like the right thing to do. We went on the first hike, and one of the guys that went with us said, they take everyone into consideration after a year if you're interested. And I thought, well, I think I'm interested. And Aaron didn't seem to mind having me around. So I thought, well, this is a good thing. So I went ahead and signed up to go to summer camp. And I think by the end of summer camp, I was invited in as an ASM. So it didn't take as long as the year that they had promised us, but
Mhm.
it worked out well. And it's been the perfect vacation every year. This year
Mhm.
was the first year that I haven't gone to summer camp for vacation since we started Boy Scouts, which is really sad.
Yeah, yes, that was. It's been a very challenging summer for sure. Your story, I would imagine, a lot of people can relate to. It sounds a lot like my story. You get involved in Cub Scouts when your son signs up. You enjoy it. You find that it's really meaningful and rewarding, and you just stick with it. And before you know it, it's been 20 years or whatever. So, thanks again for your service. We appreciate that. Now, tell me a little bit about the Order of the Arrow, Nancy, because you guys have really kind of taken advantage of what your local Order of the Arrow Lodge. I guess before we say that, Nancy, we do have a lot. We were talking about this earlier. We do have a lot of Cub Scout viewers. So for our Cub Scout viewers out there, let's start off first with a more basic question. What is the Order of the Arrow? What is it? What is that all about? What do they do?
Okay, well, they are considered the Honor Camping Society of Scouting. Uh, a boy has to be first class and have 15 nights of camping, and then he is voted in by his peers in his troop. So it's one of very few organizations that the members become members based on people that aren't necessarily members. But they're given an opportunity to join the Order of the Arrow. They have a weekend where they come and camp with us. It's called their ordeal, and they get to enjoy the ceremonies that the OA brings to Boy Scouts. A lot of them have seen some of these Boy Scout ceremonies during bridgings and so forth through Cub Scouts, or even maybe met them at their day camps. I know our boys are incredibly active in our day camp setups, so we see OA from the time they start in Tigers. They'll see the OA members going back and forth through day camp. Our archery is almost, I think, 100% OA members that run it. So there's a lot of opportunity. They don't always know who they are. Sometimes we have an OA afternoon, and that's when everyone puts their sashes on and they realize how many of them were OA members for the whole week while they were there having their fun. So it's been a very interesting approach. The boys get more training when they go into the OA. They get more camping. So based on assuming most troops do 12 events a year where they're camping at least 12 times a year, the OA offers 6 to 8 more opportunities to camp on top of that. So it is a lot of camping.
So if you like scouts, and if you like camping, and if you like helping people out, and you like doing good deeds, you're probably going to like the OA. But it's a little bit different than just scouting, right? Because you don't just sign up for the OA. How does one become a member of the OA? Can you go over that real quick?
So to be a member of the OA, your troop, you have to be first class. Once you make first class and you have 15 nights of camping, then your scoutmaster puts together a list of scouts that are eligible, and the troop then votes. So all the members of the troop vote to decide whether or not they feel that you're a good representative of their troop. And then they move on and they'll get to be invited into the OA, and they'll do their ordeal, which is a weekend of camping with the OA.
This is so cool. And as Aaron mentioned, we've got a lot of Cub Scouts and Scouts BSA members, Scouters watching right now. Just some quick shout outs. Hello to Connor from Troop 1777. Hello to Emma. Rob says Scout volunteers are the best. He knows. He's been there. He is there.
Yeah.
Oren, good afternoon from Troop 567. They're in Plymouth, Minnesota. Connor and MSA, their papa was an Order of the Arrow, and he just turned 69, so they're loving this topic. We've got
That's
Xavier
cool.
from Pack 118 here. Caden is watching today. Herman is watching today. This is just super cool. Just a thank you to you, Nancy, because we got a lot of people watching right now. And just a reminder for anybody just tuning in, this is a Scouter-focused day. There's something here for everybody, Scouts included, but we are focusing on Scouting Magazine today, and we have the Nancy. I mean, she belongs up there with astronauts, doctors, teachers, nurses. This is Nancy Bentley we're talking to today. Scout volunteer.
Absolutely. And so as a reminder, you can read about Nancy in the latest issue of Scouting Magazine, which is available through the Scouting Magazine app. If you already have the Scouting Magazine app that first launched years ago, it needs an update. And once it updates, you're going to get the latest stories. All the stories from our September issue are online, including an interview with Miss Bentley. That's very insightful. We're going to talk with her for a little bit more today. Like Gina said, Cub Scouts who are watching, the OA is something that you can look forward to. It's something nice to strive toward as you get older. For adults who are watching today, scouting volunteers, maybe Nancy, you could talk about how has the OA benefited your troop? What do kids get out of it?
Well, when we talk to the troops always say, well, that's where the older boys end up staying involved in scouting. And I think that's true. But in our troop, and I can't speak to every troop, but in our troop, the boys that were involved in the OA stayed involved in the troop. They came back and they had training that supported them coming in as leaders, and they were much stronger leaders. They understood more what was being asked of them from the adults, which made it a little easier for them to then transition their training into something that was useful for them. We've had, well, at one point during Morgan's time, I think we had 7 different leaders that came in all through the OA. A few of them, our national chief this year was senior patrol leader and the chapter chief at the same time during his time as leadership in the troop. It I mean, you're looking at these young boys thinking, wow, they're really growing, they're really getting there. And then all of a sudden you have them go 2 more years and they're national chief. It seems bizarre to think that those little boys, I sent him pictures of himself in Cub Scouts, and he laughed because he was probably a tiger cub in the picture. And I thought, this is when I met you. And it's so funny to look at you so grown up and know that right now you're leading the national part of the OA is being led by you, a little boy that came through the troop.
Yeah, absolutely. It's very cool. I'm sure you're very proud. It's very awesome.
Yes, yes.
One of the things that you mentioned in the story in Scouting Magazine, I don't know if we mentioned it yet. It's on the app. You can download it. You can read it for free. But one of the things you said was that OA events offer a welcome break to older scouts because it's a little bit different than a regular scout camp out, right, where they have chores and duties and things like that. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Yes. When I went to the first spring fellowship with the boys, and I thought by the end of it, I mean, the perspective of an adult, I thought, wow, there wasn't that much going on. I hope that they really enjoyed themselves because we really pushed them to get involved and come to these events. And they got in the car, and the whole way back, all I heard was, this was so much fun. I got to play cards. I got to play, ball. We went out and we did these different activities, and we were doing all these fun things. And then we came in and ate in the dining hall, and we didn't have to cook. We didn't have to clean up. We didn't have to tell anyone it was time to go to bed. And all of a sudden it hit me what the difference really was, is that in Boy Scouts, we teach them the patrol method, and we teach them how important it is to work as a unit to get through the outings successfully. And they do, but they're working the whole time. The older boys that are leading are definitely working the whole time. And at these events, it's like mini summer camp events. You get to go, you choose activities and trainings that you want to take, and you go off on your own and you enjoy yourself. And at the end of the day, you come back to the dining hall and everyone's there to feed you and enjoy the fellowship part of scouting that they don't always get to do when they're out on patrol outings. I mean, they're learning and they're sharing their skills, but I think they always feel like they're on and teaching.
Yeah, that's an interesting cycle because it starts off in Cub Scouts and it's mostly family campouts. You're having fun. My son struggled a little bit with the transition to Scouts BSA camping, where suddenly he was expected to help cook breakfast and lunch and dinner and things like that, a little more responsibility. So for all you Cub Scouts watching, something to look forward to down the line, join the OA, work hard, do all that stuff, and there's a reward there waiting for you.
Hey, even if you're a Scouts BSA aged member, you may be not in OA yet. It's something to think about. Let us know if you're watching, if you are in OA or you want to be in OA. I'm just curious. Nancy, you were going to say something.
No, that's true. There are troops still in the United States that don't even know what the OA is. They just don't have someone bringing it to them, and no matter where they are, there is a lodge to join. There is an opportunity. And if no one's reaching out to them, they can reach out, because once the lodge finds out where they're at, they will. They're always looking for wonderful new additions to the Order of the Arrow.
Now, Nancy, you're in OA, right? And you are not a boy.
No, it gets pointed out sometimes. It definitely gets pointed out sometimes. But in the last year, we have had girls from the troops joining the OA. So it's been very exciting. It's I think at first they thought it was going to be a huge change and there'd be these big differences in the way things were done. And it was just a smooth transition. Now there are girls in the Order of the Arrow, and there will be girls leading in the Order of the Arrow.
That's exciting.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
you guys know more about this than I do, but OA is one of the elements of scouting, right? That at least female volunteers have been a part of for a while, right?
Yes.
There you go. That's cool. I'm glad you clarified that. I hate to switch topics, but I've been really interested about something. Erin, can I ask her a question?
You absolutely can, of course.
Yes. Okay, so when I was reading your story in the Scouting Magazine app, I saw that you created an all-youth health and safety team for the district. Is that right? Because I love that. I love anything that Scouts First. How did you get that idea? What does that even mean?
Well, I mean, it came from the Order of the Arrow, because at the moment that I did my wilderness first aid training, I was approached by the man that was leading, the advisor of the OA at the time, and he said, "Hey, I noticed you did that training, so I got a job for you. You can be in charge of health and safety for the chapter." And I thought, well, that's kind of scary, because my degree in art doesn't really carry over that well as health and safety person. But I thought, well, he was at the training, he knows what I can do, so I guess it's okay. And there were 3 different boys that took the training as youth. They were all 14 and 15 years old. And when I took the position in the chapter, they immediately approached me and asked me to take the position in the district. And I thought, well, if I'm doing it one place, what's the difference? I might as well be doing it for both. And then I realized what I had stepped into, and that it was really big and I was going to have a lot to do. And the boys kept saying, "Oh, it'll be nothing. It'll be nothing." And then one of the days where we were working on the OA, trying to get our all youth leadership done and have them in charge of the health and safety team, the 2 that were working with my son at the time said, "Can we help you with the district stuff?" And I thought, well, I guess you can. And I thought, well, the worst they could say was no. So I reached out to them and asked, and they said yes. So then the boys were very excited, because they were given, district shirts to wear, and it definitely jumped, what the meaning was to them, and they took it very seriously. And they did a lot of fundraising to get the supplies, because we started from nothing, and they ended up with all the supplies we needed. They came and worked at day camp every year. They did all the camporees with me every year. So the boys ended up, I mean, I think for them it was a really big deal, but it was a bigger deal for the district, because at that point they'd always thought it was just this one person that sat and put band-aids on people. And when they came in, they took a bigger view of it, and they did more safety checks. They'd check the fires and make sure everything was done according to the code of the books that were given to us for procedures for these events. So it was kind of different, but a lot of fun, and the boys were thrilled. And the younger boys would do things like come up to these boys and say, "Well, when we get to be men, we're going to do what you do." And you're laughing, thinking, and they're 14. Okay, so when you're in fifth grade, still you're looking at these guys thinking they're really grown up. It was fun.
Well, one of the cool things about scouting, Scouts BSA program, and the other scouting programs is that we teach skills that kids can take with them for a long time. And in this case, I think a couple of scouts did. One of them became, you said, a paramedic, I think, and one of them became a nurse, partly because of their experience with this program, right?
Yes, yes. I mean, it was maybe that was the best part of the takeaway, was that these boys who were excited about doing the training were probably the only people going into camporee going, "Wow, I hope something really bad happens, because then we get to treat people." And thinking, I just hope nothing happens, so we're all really bored for the whole weekend. But in their minds, they were ready to treat and take care of any disaster that happened. And we did have a few where we had to close things down because we had bad weather, and they were on top of it. They just, they were in their element. And when they went off to college, it was not a surprise to see these kids say, well, now I'm going to do paramedic training. And two of them did paramedic training, and the second one decided then to go further, took it in and went through and finished his training in nursing, and is now out working and loving his job. So it does make a difference. And he came over during his nursing training and said, I kind of thought about being a doctor, but I think what I learned while we were scouting is I'm better with the people, and I don't want to be the one that walks in and out and isn't as involved. I think I've got the ability to take care of people. So it worked out really, really well. Makes you
That's
happy.
awesome. Yeah, for sure. Gina, I
That
promise I
is
will
such a
let you
good story.
I'll promise,
Go
Gina, I'll
ahead.
let you ask the question in just a second. But I do want, this is important because one of your sons' name is Aaron, also my
Yes.
name, a lovely name. I love it. And in fact,
Yeah.
him himself, he joined the rescue team at the University of Virginia. He participated in an actual missing persons search about 5 or 6 years ago. A lot of skills he learned again from this program in there, which is very cool. And he eventually even saved someone who was having a seizure. Is that right?
Yes. Yes. And the day that we were out at an ordeal, so everybody kind of spreads out, and it's a day of service, so everyone's out doing what they're supposed to be doing. And I had an adult come out to me and say, I think you need to come in. I think we're having an emergency. We might need to call 911. And I thought, oh, this is awful. So I stopped what I was doing and went in, and the entire room is standing on the other side of the room, and there's someone on the floor, and my son standing with his phone out making a phone call. And I said, who are you calling? And he goes, I've already called 911. Everything's taken care of. But can someone just move this picnic table so there's room for this poor guy? And at that point, it was probably the first time the adults in the room recognized they needed to help, and they slid the table away so we could get down on the floor with him and spend a little more time assessing what was going on. But by the time I walked in, Aaron had already taken care of everything that was necessary. He had his med forms out, he had everything checked off and ready to go. And when the paramedics came in, they went to him. They knew who knew what was really being done and what had happened. He was the witness. I was a bystander at that point, and just as calm as a cucumber went through the whole thing. And afterwards, one of the adults that has stayed incredibly active since his sons have graduated out of scouting and gone on to college and moved on and gotten jobs, and he stayed back with us. And he said, well, if Aaron ever does decide to go into medicine, I would let him treat me before I would let anyone else treat me, because I know he could do it no matter what was wrong. And I thought, I kind of think the same thing. When we got him trained, I got him trained because I needed someone that would care whether or not I lived or died if something bad happened. And we were going on high adventure trips, so he was my answer. He was going to be the one that saved me, so I didn't have to worry.
Awesome.
That's quite the role reversal. I love it.
Mhm.
You had Rob laughing a little bit earlier. He says, "What's one more scouting position?" You probably had that feeling.
Yeah, well, it sort of made sense at the time until I took it, and then I thought, wow, I really I got taken on that one. And someone asked, at what point do you step out of that position? And I thought, I don't think you do. I think you have to move away or or disappear, because I think that once you're in those positions, you just sort of stay in those positions. But we
That's
had these
interesting.
young ones coming up. The one that turned into a nurse did say at one point, he goes, just don't worry, someday I'll come and I'll take your job. Oh, I'll give it to you. Believe me, that will not be a problem.
You've got to hold
You
him to
don't know
it.
what you're saying.
You helped him find a career. You're going to help him find a volunteer role. It sounds like the
Oh,
perfect trade.
yes, I would definitely give him the opportunity to volunteer. But it is kind of fun. The OA is the one place where our 21-year-olds finish their service or their position that they have in the Order of the Arrow, and the next day they're being invited in as adult advisors because they clearly have a skill set that they want to hold on to them. It's not thank you for your service and you're done. They definitely want those boys to stay involved. And I'm not sure what every lodge looks like, but I know in our lodge we have a lot of really young 22 to 30-year-olds that are in big positions in the lodge and make it look effortless. But these are
Super
the same
cool.
boys that made it look effortless when they were 14. Like, no, they're comfortable with it. They're good with what they're doing.
Very cool.
Interesting.
Well,
Aaron, I have one question, I guess, before I know we have to let Nancy go, but I do have one question that we should probably end all of these with, which is just, you've got a lot of experience. What is your biggest, this is broad, biggest piece of advice for Scout parents and Scouters out there watching right now?
Be involved. Be involved. And at one point I was told when we were in Cub Scouts that if I looked like a mom, I was going to be sent home because if I was just there to be my son's mom, then I wasn't being a leader. And it seemed harsh at the time, but I realized once I got really involved in this, I see my sons, but that's not my focus when I'm there. It's for the good of the group, and you start to realize how lucky you are. I was lucky enough to take high adventure trips with both my sons and get to see them grow up and really take charge and be able to say, here's the difference. When we started, I used to worry about whether your bag was too heavy for you to carry. And could I get your bag where it needed to be without people noticing that I'm kind of helping you shuffle along? And by the time they were 15 and 16, they were taking my bag and carrying it when we were loading canoes and moving from place to place. And it seems strange, but then all of a sudden it made sense that I wasn't just there for them. I was there for all those boys that needed someone, sometimes a mom in the middle of the night and sometimes a dad, but you're there for them to help them get through whatever struggle they're having at the time. But you also get the joy of getting to see them grow up from little fifth graders to 18, 19, 21-year-olds that you're proud to say you knew from the time they were young.
pretty cool, pretty inspiring. If there's any parents out there watching right now who aren't yet involved in their sons or daughters' troop or pack, now's a great time to sign up. Nancy and I talked a little bit before we got started here about the challenges that all troops have been facing these last few months. If you can't meet in person, your troop could use your help more than ever before right now. So, I want to remind everybody that you can read more about Nancy in the latest issue of Scouting Magazine, which is digital now. It is an app. It is available for free to everyone. There's lots of cool stories. The Nancy story may be the coolest, but there's lots of other cool stories on there also. It gets updated every single day, Gina. There's a new piece of news on this app every single day. That's an advantage that we have now that we didn't have before when we were printing out 5 issues or 6 issues of Scouting Magazine per year. With the Scouting Magazine app now, you get updates all the time. You can sign up for notifications to get notified when the stories you want go live. There's different categories. We just encourage everybody to download it, explore it, let us know what you think. And just know that we are continuing to update it, continuing to work on it. It's just going to get better and better and better. Nancy, thanks so much for joining us. It was great talking to you today.
Well, thank you for giving me the opportunity. It's a great program. It's worth getting to hear people talk to you because you don't get a chance to do this every day, and you never know whether everyone else is getting the same feedback. So it's good to get to talk to them.
And in case Nancy wasn't already so awesome, she also told us she's an art teacher and she's about to start teaching her virtual art classes, another huge challenge. I'm not sure there's anything you can't do, Nancy. I'm sure it'll be fine. Good luck to you, though. Best
Well,
of luck
thank
teaching
you.
class. I know that's tough. Best of luck to you.
Thank you so much.
If you ever want to come back and give us an art lesson on Truck It too, we'd love that too.
Ah,
Hey, I would be thrilled. I'd be much more comfortable with that.
there's
Cool.
an idea. Art lessons with Nancy.
Okay.
Perfect. I love it.
Yeah, I do too. Awesome. Well, read Nancy's full story in the Scouting Magazine app. And everybody, we will be back on Monday at 2 p.m. Central for another Trek It 2.
Thank you, Nancy.
You're welcome. Bye.
Everybody, thanks for watching.